What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm an ADHD kid with a dream to see more women breaking out of the shell society tells us we're supposed to fit into and start living life on our own terms. This podcast is designed to share inspiration and give you practical steps to empower you to live your days aligned with your values and headed towards your dreams. I believe the world benefits when you show up as your full self and you live life lit up. So that's what we talk about here on this podcast. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to the second half of my interview with my friend, Megs Crawford. She's a professional organizer with ADHD, and she's also just a ray of sunshine. She drops so many gems, and I just love listening to her share her heart and share her perspectives, and I know you're going to love it too. If you haven't checked out the first half of the interview yet, that's the last episode that dropped last week, so go ahead and listen to that. And then I'm so excited to share the second half of this interview with you. So, to kind of bring us back around to talking about the emotional regulation and how that was so important, a huge factor in transitioning like from corporate to being an entrepreneur. What are some of the other things that helped you like in the business sense, right? So, I think a lot of my audience kind of maybe struggles is a little extreme, but I feel like there are a lot of questions around how do you do that, right? So you got the career coach, love that. What did it look like to get to the business you're at now? Like, did you quit your job and then start a business? Did you start the business on like runway and then quit your job? Did you go straight into this business, or like was there some trial and error? Like, I would just love to hear about that journey.
Oh, that's a fun journey. Because one day I looked at my husband and I was like, what if I just left my job? And he goes, do it. And then I immediately
I
started.
love him. I was like picturing the panic on a husband's face. Not your husband.
He just knew how unhappy I had been for so long and saw the pain
Love
and the
that. Yeah.
turmoil that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And with anything that you're going through in life, it often bleeds into your personal life. So I
Oh
wasn't as
yeah.
happy as I typically was. And he what's really cool is, and I think about this all the time, and I'm so grateful for him, is he's never doubted me even once. And I feel,
Awesome.
and I think that's very important for people to hear is I
Mm-hmm.
have an incredible support system at my back.
Mm-hmm.
He not once said, but what about this? But what about this? What about this? It's not that those questions weren't talked about,
Right.
but when I said, what if I did this? He said, do it without hesitation. And then we
Awesome.
talked about, okay, what does this look like and this look like? And when I originally left, I had the intentions of going back into the corporate world, as I had mentioned. But one day when I went to go sit down with my career coach and work on my resume, I had such a negative perspective on it. I wanted nothing to do with my resume. I never have. I hate resumes. I
Yeah,
hate
they're trash.
interviewing. I hate all of that stuff.
Really? Because you're doing
And
great right now.
thank you so much. Okay, I actually love being interviewed. However, I hate the process of looking at a new job, and
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
so annoying. So when we went in, I said, what if we just didn't do this part?" And we talked about me starting my own business. And she goes, "I'm so excited for you, and I was really hoping that you might choose that," because she started to know me and started to know that, this is something that I could absolutely do and absolutely
Mm-hmm.
pursue on my own. So we ended up going on vacation because, I mean, what else do you do after you leave the job? And I was the breadwinner. So why
Yeah.
not plan a family vacation and go?
Okay, to clarify, like you quit the job before you had something else lined up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure did.
Wow, that's so gutsy. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about your
I
evening
also want to
weekend.
say
Oh,
I
sorry.
quit with a 3 week notice because I wanted to write everyone's reviews and I wanted to make sure that I was showing up as the best employee possible. Can I just put that out there for anyone listening? If you're thinking about quitting your job, just go.
I'm
Please do
so
not. Like, I don't care if you think you're going to burn bridges. They don't care about you.
they do
Please just
not.
go. I mean, some people do. Some people absolutely do. But when it comes to the business world, you are so welcome to just get up and go. And
You
that's
are
one of
such a
the
good
whatever.
person.
I did what I did. And then I I remember the first Monday after I wasn't going to work, I went and bought my girls a pool. I thought we were going to have the best day ever, and it was not. It was so overly emotional because I didn't take time to really sit and handle all the things going on.
Okay,
But
yeah.
fast forward, we went on vacation, came home. I had started talking about the idea of being a professional organizer. I
Um,
just really love when things are aesthetically pleasing. I think that it gives you this dopamine you didn't even realize you could have in
mhm.
real life by just walking into a room, right? Similar to interior design, but totally different because that's a different aspect of designing your life completely. So as I experienced this new world, I went into the idea of being a professional organizer in the sense that I wanted to work with the classiest of clients and design these incredible spaces. And
Yes.
I had big dreams when it came to that. And I wanted to start a podcast where I talked about organizing and what it means to have less as I'm on my own minimalism journey. And I have evolved completely, which is crazy because it did not happen overnight. I started
Mhm.
organizing and I just took action and got into it.
Yeah.
But then I started comparing myself to other people
Mhm.
and saying, well, I didn't do that yet. And I didn't do that. So, one thing I had to constantly repeat to myself is, you are exactly where you need to be. You are
Mhm.
exactly where you need to be. And that's what I still do to this day because I see other people doing these amazing things. And I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, whoa, whoa. You're doing amazing things too, Megan, just in your own way. So just remind
Yes.
yourself that that's okay. And you can continue on this journey because today you are exactly where you need to be. So I also started, as I had mentioned earlier, the infinite possibilities, like thinking about my future, thinking about these
Mhm.
big things that I want to do between now
Mhm.
and then what is one thing I can do today to get
Mhm.
there? So breaking it up into the smallest tasks imaginable, which for my ADHD brain is exactly the only way I'm going to be able to do anything. Because
So
if I
real.
think about just saying I'm going to start a podcast, okay, well, in my brain, I'm like, well, that's easy. I could absolutely start a podcast, right? What
Yeah.
do I have to do? This and that. Sure. But when I actually sit down and start to think about starting a podcast, there's so much ambiguity in that process. And I
Mhm.
read an article the other day, they talked about how ambiguity is the cause of procrastination. If you don't know how to do something, or if there's something that's not necessarily very clear and you have to come
Mhm.
up with the clarity and the rules yourself,
Mhm.
that's typically what holds me back from doing something. So when I'm able to break it up, yeah, sorry, did you want to comment on that?
Sorry. That was just like I think that's the executive function like missing. Like we don't have that
Totally.
organizer who's like, oh, these are obviously the parameters that everybody
Right.
else in society is like born with. But anyway, sorry, just to
But yeah,
distract from the point.
exactly. Yes. Like, I mean, that's the executive dysfunction of like, executive function is where you can clearly come up with the steps and like put it in this clear timeline of what that
Yes.
looks like, except that my timeline is like this. And it's all happening either right now or it's
Or
all
not,
over
not
there.
right now.
So, yeah, exactly. Right now or not right now. And when I say, okay, I want to start a podcast, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do it one at a time. That's exactly what I did. So, obviously, we met each other through this podcast course and becoming part of the amazing pod sisters that we are.
Yes.
And I started by signing up for this class. Well, guess who then never took the course in person? This lady,
I still
because
haven't finished the videos.
oh my gosh, girl, it's but it wasn't until I started meeting with the podcast group. So that was my one thing. That's all I
Cool.
had to do. And then we started
Mhm.
making these little promises to each other over time, like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And the more we talked about it, the more it felt okay to put myself out there and be
Mm,
messy a little bit, which
love
helped
that.
me do that in the organizing space and in the infinite
Yeah.
possibility space because I got my certification around the same time. I also networked with a lot of people who either have been professional organizers or have moved on from that space.
Okay.
And one of the best pieces of advice I got was, hey, it's okay to not know what your niche is right now. Just keep doing it and keep doing what, yes, just to figure out what drives you, and you're going to continue to
Yes.
build your business into something that you never even thought was possible. And that's another thing about manifesting your life is
Yeah.
like you can think about your end result and what that looks like
Hmm.
and how you're living your life. Think about that all the time. The thing is that the pathway to get there, you can't possibly know
Right.
because there's so many things that the universe is going to throw in your direction, and
Yeah.
you're going to have to come up with the boundaries in place so that you keep your eye on your prize that whole time. So
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to start a podcast, and I knew that by watching one video a day or one video once or twice a week was going to get me to the point where I could do it. And there's
Mhm.
workbooks along the way, but at the same time I'm still organizing and I'm doing all these
Mhm.
things. So it was through a series of, yeah, a lot of like wins, but a lot of fails too. I
Yeah.
even one one thing that put a wrench in my plan was I was organizing someone's basement. They had hired me to organize their basement, and most of the time I had been doing one-on-one organizing where I was working with people. But this person specifically wanted me to come in and perform a service and just say, like, organize all of this stuff. And I was
Okay.
like, yeah, I could do that. That's easy. I absolutely, my brain works like that. So I went into this space, you couldn't even see the ground, and I organized it. It was
Wow.
awesome. I put labels on everything. There was nothing you couldn't find in that basement. In fact, I still remember where everything is to this day. And
That's
but
incredible.
it, and it was also one of the experiences that left such a bad taste in my mouth because I wasn't working with someone one on one and teaching them and showing them the
Mhm.
process. Because if you do something for someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that that is their life now, right? You've
Right.
performed a service, but it's not like they can come in and do it for themselves now. Like
Yeah.
with labels and everything, there's communication involved in that. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, they didn't really take anything away from that experience. So
Yeah.
that experience taught me that I never wanted to go into a space and just organize something because
Mhm.
that's not what I'm about. I want to teach
Yeah.
people. I want to help people understand what I know, even if it's just bits and
Mhm.
pieces. And I want to develop relationships with people because I want to empower them to believe in themselves in a way that they haven't before. And
Mhm.
with organization and with having less and decluttering spaces, it's so achievable. I
Yeah.
had another client where I worked with her one on one and I gave her some of the tools to help let go of some stuff, and
Oof.
it was incredible watching her say no to things because I gave her the tools. And then as we walked through, I said, what about this? Right. And she would make the decision. I never had to remind her of the things we talked about in the beginning.
Wow.
She had it. She was ready to go. She was
Good.
ready. I brought 20 totes of stuff to the donation center, all stuff that she was totally
Holy.
ready to let go. And
That's
what
amazing.
was once multiple spaces that she did not have control over because there was
Mhm.
so much staff, it's now spaces where she feels so in control because she knows
Mhm.
exactly where everything is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was so incredible to see the transformation. And so those are some of the experiences that I've had that I had to have in order for me
Yeah.
to get to this place of clarity and understanding that I'm at now. So while some of them didn't bring feelings of joy and happiness, they also brought feelings of uncomfort and growth that helped
Mhm.
me understand that by taking action, by doing little things, and by continuing to move forward and taking steps in the right direction, I can get to wherever the heck I want to go. It doesn't mean that it's going to be sunshine and rainbows the whole time,
Right.
although I would
Right.
prefer that. and lots of stars.
Lots
but
of stars.
but let's just be
Visible
honest,
stars.
like there's so much that we as humans can achieve as long as we continue to
Yeah.
put one step in front of the other. And coming back to a good support system, right? Whether it's your spouse, your partner, or literally anyone in your life that believes in you,
Yeah.
meeting with them regularly and them understanding things about you that you talk about, and then they regularly lift you up.
Mm.
It's a game changer. And
Yeah.
then talking to yourself in a way that you're changing those neural pathways so that you can continue to believe in yourself, because there's going to be
Yeah.
really good days. And then there's going to be days where you hit this dip and you're just like, why did I even start this in the first place? And you've got to be able to talk yourself through that, right? And do all the things that you were practicing on the good days, on the bad days too, because that's when it freaking matters the most. But that's when you don't want to do it the most. And
Right.
that's, yeah. So that is where I have discovered entrepreneurship being the hardest, is just keeping myself up in the days that are not the greatest.
Yeah. And how do you do that?
Well, I think I've done a lot of practice as far as like talking to myself. If I find myself going down a path that is leading me into like a negative world that I will continue to ruminate on, because I have ADHD and my brain never stops working. So if I'm on a tangent, it's going to continue to go down this tangent. But I'm also very aware that like I'm in control of my thoughts. And so if I let myself go
Mm.
down that path, it's going to, because I'm used to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've grown up doing. But even the other day I was looking in the mirror and I was about to say something negative about myself. And I said, "Oh my gosh, and I looked at my husband, and my girls were in the room too. And I was like, my thighs are amazing." so so even if I don't believe it, I'm going to say the words out loud, because
Yes.
and so another thing I do is, if I feel myself going on this negative path, is I go, "I'm awesome, I'm awesome, I'm awesome, I'm awesome." I like
Hey,
white knuckle myself through it.
literally.
And I think that there's other affirmations that you can say to get yourself out of it, but that helps me in the moment, because it's just given me something I can do in place of freaking out or going
Yeah.
down this path, because it's easy, once you're over the high of starting your new business and like telling people like you just started, now you're 6 or 7 months in, you're like, yeah, I'm in my first year and I feel like I should be doing better, but I'm not. I'm exactly where I need to be, right? Like it's okay. You're still
Yes.
exactly where you need to be in this
Yeah.
moment. You are still taking steps in the right direction. And I also say to myself, like the work I'm doing today may not pay off today, and it may not pay off
Right.
tomorrow or the next day.
Right.
But 6 months down the road, this work is going to pay off tenfold. And
Yes.
people are going to see what I've been doing this whole time,
Yeah.
putting in the work and challenging myself to continuously get better. So the talking positively to myself can be difficult, especially like I'm going through a period of loss right now. And we knew it
Mhm.
was coming, but at the same time, it didn't make it easier. But
Yeah.
I thought very logically I was going to be able to move on with my life just fine and things would be great, except that it's overwhelming and it's
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
And the emotions come in waves, and it comes in a way
Yes.
that is debilitating and makes you question life and
Yeah.
what is it worth living. And on the other end, it also gives you the perspective of, I have this beautiful opportunity to continue to live my life.
Mhm.
And so why not put every effort into showing up exactly who I am? And
Mm.
so I work on that on a regular basis. And
Mhm.
it's a practice, right? We
Yeah.
talked about that. Like I used to tell my team in the corporate world is that confidence is not a trait, it's a habit. It's something that you
Talk
have to
about it.
continuously practice. You don't
Yes.
just show up confident because you were born that way. You show up confident because you pretend to be confident until you freaking are. And then you are because you practice it so often, and so that's
Yeah.
that's something about the manifestation process too, is like you think about what that future self is, and then you start to practice it now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, I want to live a life where I'm kind to myself and I
Yeah.
practice yoga.
Yeah.
So why not be kind to myself now and practice yoga?
If you want to see
Like,
the stars, you have to go outside.
yeah, freaking yes. Like, if I want to look at the stars at night, I should probably go outside and look at the stars. Because again, it's not going to just happen one day that I felt like I've
Right.
made it.
Right.
Like, if I want to be happy, I should focus on what that looks like now instead
Hmm.
of waiting until one day that I'm magically happy. So,
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
mm,
Oh, that's so good. I love how you talked about like how just taking messy action and like trying different things like led you, kind of helped you navigate and figure out where you were going. And I think that so many of us, like you were saying, we're like waiting to be happy, or we're waiting for something to happen, then we're like, oh, then things will fall into place. And um like with the business too, when you're talking about being like 6 months in and not as far along as you'd like to be, I think that in my mind, like that ties into what I was talking about with like things being so behind the curtain, because I feel like we don't talk about the process enough. And then when people are trying to figure it out, they're like, so how did you do it? Because we're like, oh, and then one day, you're just like,
yeah,
what? No, like what? I can't like, how can I recreate that? I need to know the steps to take. And so I think there's this idea that like you think about it and you think about it and you think about it and you figure it out and then you like execute it and then you're an overnight success. And no, like the more I learn about what the process has looked like for different people, the more it seems like, and what I feel like I'm hearing you say is like you kind of choose something. Like you're good at a lot of things. You could have chosen a number of things and you chose organizing. You have to start somewhere. And then you started organizing. Like you started taking action, and then from there you're able to like navigate and kind of hone things down or pivot, like, but there's only so much you can figure out before you start. And I love that you said that because I think that's so huge.
yeah.
And
And
I am curious, like, what got you to settle on organizing? Like, is that something you've always been passionate about? Or like, is that something your friends come to you for? Or like,
oh
because I feel like
gosh,
you could have done anything.
that's really funny. It's funny, because when I first became an organizer, people would come up to me and they would be like, I'm also a really good organizer. I've been organizing my whole life. And I'm like, that's great because I have not. And throughout my whole life, I have been incredibly messy and incredibly unaware of how much stuff I had. And I didn't know that you could get rid of it. In fact, I remember I was telling a friend of mine this. I remember I used to work at the Cheesecake Factory, and one of my friends invited us all over to her house for a party, and we went in
Mhm.
her room, and she had this dresser that had nothing on it except for this like cute little tray where she had a couple spray bottles and like a lotion. And I'm like, what is this life? One day I would love to have this life, but I don't know
What
how
is an
one
empty horizontal surface? What is
what
that?
is I don't know what this is. It doesn't make sense to me. I
It's
thought
fake.
I was just like I couldn't understand how someone could live like this,
Yeah, you're like, when
but
are you
I
gonna move in?
also wanted it so much. I wanted it,
Yeah.
but I had accepted about myself that that just wasn't a part of me, and that was okay. And then as I moved in with my husband, we combined all of our stuff, then we had kids. So now I'm not only managing my own wardrobe, my husband has stuff, then my kids have stuff, and they freaking need new clothes every couple months because they keep growing, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
And we kept accumulating stuff that I started to notice that didn't make a lot of difference in our life.
Mm.
And I started watching shows like The Minimalist. There's a couple different
Mhm.
documentaries out there. There's a book on it. Marie Kondo.
Hmm.
more recently the home edit. And all of those shows were so inspiring to me. So with Marie Kondo, I immediately started folding my clothes so that I could see everything. Although I
Mm.
still had a ton of clothes, I folded them in a way so that I could see more things. Okay, go ahead.
Which is also so important for ADHD because we forget we have shit. If
Yes,
you can't
ma'am.
see it, it doesn't exist. I've
Exactly.
noticed, like, and that's part of what I'm so close to transitioning to a capsule wardrobe because I'm just like, I end up wearing, especially working from home, I hardly leave my house. So I end up
Yeah,
wearing like the same four outfits over and over and over again because I'm like,
it makes sense. Yeah,
yeah. And then I have like all this other stuff that I'm just like, meh, I haven't worn in like a year. And I'm like,
yeah.
one of these days I'm just gonna get rid of all that stuff and I'm gonna wear the same four outfits for the rest of my life. That's gonna be fine.
And I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's been fascinating to see the impact on people's lives when they start to downsize.
Yes. Yeah.
I was showing my client my closet today. I FaceTimed her and I was like, look, this is,
Yeah.
and I'm showing her, but I'm also like, remember, I have been decluttering for a very long time. So this is what
Right.
it's now. And
Yeah.
I can very easily go in there and say, I don't need this sweater. I wore it yesterday, but I was so annoyed with all the pilling on it that I'm going to
Mm,
donate it. I'm done with it.
I
It
love
doesn't
that.
need to belong to me anymore. And that's okay. But I'm also very used to making these decisions.
Yeah.
But back then, I wasn't. So I
Yeah.
started. And so I made these little changes. I started selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, downsizing, and then it brought more money. So that was more
Right.
incentive for me to get rid of more.
Yeah.
And I talk about this in my podcast episode, the next one I'm going to release, but I talk a little bit about how my husband and I put our house up for sale. And I decluttered a lot because people are going to be coming to look at the house and I want to showcase what's available to them. And one of my friends said to me, "Oh, wow, your house is really decluttered. I didn't realize, I'm so impressed with everything that you got out of there." And I was like, I didn't think that it was that bad, right? So like I started to do some self-reflecting. Meanwhile, I've been downsizing for so long and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Anyways, I love this friend to death. And I love that she said this because it got
Yeah.
me thinking. I think I used to think that I just needed to take every piece of decor I had and make it work. I didn't need to
Hmm.
let it go. I just needed to
Hmm.
like put it out. Where does it fit?
Hmm.
And now I understand that I don't. I really don't. If there's a piece of decor that just doesn't work anymore, it leaves my house because
Yeah. Because
it's
why?
likely I'm not going to use it any longer.
Yeah.
And so it's just been a journey over time. And actually, I bought a bunch of PTO before I left the corporate world.
Oh,
And I
nice.
went on a couple of vacations, but I also went and I decluttered my own house. But then I
Hmm.
also went and helped my mother declutter her closet. And like we got rid of 8 bags of blankets and all kinds of other stuff.
Hmm.
And then while I was out visiting my parents, they had another couple down the street and they were like, I really wish there was someone out here that could help us figure out what to keep and what to donate and like how to make it simpler for our kids to live their lives. If we were to pass away, I want them to not have
Mm.
this be an overwhelming thing that they have to do, go through our
Love those
home.
parents. Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, right?
Any
And then
parents
so it
listening,
got
please.
exactly. So it got me thinking more and more about how many people need help with their stuff.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
have had so much stuff. I've
Hmm.
had so much attachment to stuff over my life.
Yeah.
And I have also gone through the journey of letting go.
Yeah.
And it's been a beautiful journey. It's been emotional
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gotten to the point where it's easier for me now. Even like I kept band t-shirts from high school
Yeah. Of
and
course.
at first I was keeping them because I'm like, maybe I'll fit in them one day again. Except I also remember the way that they fit on me, even if I was like smaller or bigger, whatever. I remember they being so boxy and them not hitting the right spot on my body. So I was like, I don't know why I'm keeping them. I thought I was gonna make
Yeah.
a blanket or something,
All
but then I
right.
was like, I don't actually think I would ever want to put that blanket out anywhere. Like I don't know that it would bring me joy to look at it.
Yeah.
But for me, it made sense to just donate them.
Yeah.
And I remember that they exist, but I don't need to have them sitting under my bed collecting dust,
Right.
which is really cool because I've made I've accepted the fact that if someone else finds it and has joy from it,
Yeah.
that makes way more sense to me than not. And coming back to the wardrobe thing, I worked with a client who also has ADHD. She's so amazing, but her house had flooded and they had to redo
Oh,
their house. And so she
oh,
was forced to work from a smaller wardrobe. And she was
okay.
like, I honestly want to live like this now because I see how much easier it is to make decisions from having so
Yes,
much less.
correct.
And it's really cool because I think a lot of people with ADHD or not don't realize how much having less is helpful. And
Yeah,
another one of my clients, just one other like quick tidbit is she talked about, I told her last time, I was like, everything that you have in your home is a decision that needs to be made.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
decision that you make now or later, but regardless, if you put it off, it's another decision you have to make. Same with like selling stuff. I used to sell a lot, but now a lot of it leaves my house because there's other things that are my priorities. If my
Mhm.
priority is selling stuff, making money, okay, well, then that's going to be a big part of my life. And those are more decisions I have to make. But a lot of the times things just leave my house now because I've made the decision for it to leave and I'm ready for it to leave.
Yeah.
And then I never have to make a decision on that item ever again in my entire
Fair,
life.
fair.
And it's brilliant. So
Yeah.
it's been really, really cool to show people what that experience is like and
Yeah.
to help them understand that they're truly capable of it. And it's life changing.
That's so incredible. I love that so much. It's just like so beautiful and it's so important. Um, yeah, I've started getting it like I'm, baby steps in, right? And
Yeah.
already like it's so much better. Just like get rid of stuff. And I love how you brought it full circle, right? Because you're talking about like not knowing that you're like allowed to let go of stuff and the emotional attachment and like then the shoulds, right? Of like, oh, I have all these awesome band t-shirts, like I should make a quilt, or like you didn't say should, but like that's like what I'm hearing, right? It's like we think we're supposed to repurpose things or hold on to things to prove we care about it. And I feel like you just brought the conversation full circle and you're like, and I'm honoring myself and what I need and what is useful for me to function in my life. And I'm not going to keep something just because I should or everyone else has it or like you're supposed to or like like I'm making this decision for myself. And then I love how you're talking about how that makes your life so much easier. And then again, you're talking about when you pour into yourself and you be selfish, it benefits the people around you. And then you're talking about like when I donate those t-shirts, somebody's gonna get joy out of it. And I was like, she really just brought this conversation like all the way back.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Even like, oh my gosh, even cleaning up. Like my kids make a mess, right? I make a mess still.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
not changed to the point that I don't still leave stuff out,
right.
except that now that I am organized and I have less, first of all, there's less to clean up because I don't have
Yes.
as much.
Yeah.
And I know where everything goes. So like
Mhm.
I could look at my counter and I could even look right now. Okay, so like I've got a bunch of stuff out here on my desk because this is the way that I work.
Right.
But everything has a place to go. Like this pen goes specifically where the pens go. This hair clip goes with the hair clips. These headphones go with me literally everywhere I go. So they go around my neck. I don't know. But
Yeah.
everything can go exactly where it needs to go for me to find the next time I need it, which
Yes, that
is
part.
fascinating to me because it used to be like I saw that in a stack of papers and I'm pretty sure it's in that stack of papers right there.
Mhm.
And that's what my brain remembers, right? But that's how
Yeah.
I've always done things until I didn't. And
Yeah.
it is life changing. It's really awesome.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on so many topics, but also like decluttering,
Oh my
and
gosh.
just getting rid of things. Um, but yeah, I appreciate you so much. I apologize for not being better at keeping track of time. I'm not trying
Oh my
to
gosh, stop. I
take
could talk to you
advantage of your
all day. Like
time.
literally, didn't we do this the other day? Didn't we talk for like
Yes,
2.5 hours
always
over
do
our
this.
hour meeting?
Oh man. Okay, so I would love though to kind of wrap up with like how can people find you? Like what is the best place to follow you? Tell us the name of your podcast and I'll include links, but just kind of give us a
Well,
little self shameless self promo. And if there's
yay!
anything like you're working on or offering or like excited about right now that we should know about to support you?
Cool. Yeah, okay. So to find me, well, my podcast is the Mindful Megs podcast, Organizing an
Love it.
ADHD Brain. I'm in all places that you can find podcasts. I
Which is
just started
incredible,
my
by the way.
YouTube.
Highly
Was
recommend.
that?
I said incredible, by the way. Highly recommend.
Yeah. And I'm on YouTube now. I just launched my YouTube channel, which is up and coming. So please come and subscribe to me.
Yes.
Um, I also have TikTok. TikTok is probably my platform of choice and probably the one I'm most vocal on just things that I'm feeling throughout the day. I think it's really
Mm.
easy to pop on and just talk about stuff. Other than that, I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm so happy to chat with you on email. And my website is mindfulmegs.com. Even just talking, I'm like, wow, I've got so many places that you
I
can
know, I was like,
reach me.
she's everywhere. I love it.
I'm everywhere. I would say, the biggest thing that I just launched and I've been doing is digital decluttering, where I can work with you one on one and I don't have to come into your home, but we can work in a space that you need help in. And I can give you tips and tricks and different thought processes to help you through. And coming back to that body doubling aspect of life is oftentimes with ADHD, you just need someone there with you to
Mhm.
support you through the process.
Yeah.
And as a professional, I'm there to walk you through the process and give you all the things you need to know, and including and not limited to next steps to take. So
I love that.
yeah, that's a
You
little
are
bit about
so
me.
great. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate you so much. I could talk to you forever. So
Oh my God, ditto. You are so amazing. And thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Mary Beth is one of the people behind me helping me believe in myself. And so thank you for never doubting me once along this journey.
you
You're
make it
amazing.
easy to believe in you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, girl.
Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. I hope you loved it. I know Megs is a gem, and I just love her so much. A couple of the biggest takeaways that I got from this conversation were how having a support system is a game changer. It's just so important and can make such a huge difference in your success. Also, I love how she talks about taking action and making mistakes is what helps you gain clarity on what you want to do with your life or in this season of your life. I also love how she asks, what is one thing that I can do today to get closer to my dream? I think that's so key to break things down and ask yourself, what can I do today? What can I do this week? How can I consistently make progress towards my dream? Just love that she brought that up. Also, the knowledge drop that ambiguity is the cause of procrastination, that was huge for me. I loved that. And the way she talks about how the more we can clarify the parameters of what we need to do and break things down into tasks, the easier it is to actually take action and take those baby steps. The last thing I pulled from it that I want to highlight is how discomfort and mistakes along the way are lessons in how we can change our path to be more in alignment with our values and what we want our lives to look like. I just got so many things from this interview and had a great time doing it. And I hope that you got a lot from it and that you enjoyed listening. We'll see you next time.